it's Jenny here, the Prevention DPT. In today's video, I'm talking to you about 3 products I'd recommend for exercising at home. Among those 3 products, I'm going to talk about a resistive product, a product you can do for resistance exercise, a stretching mobilization product for helping with mobility, particularly in your spine, and a cardiovascular product, so a product for cardio. First of all, before we get started, I'd like to say that in this video, these 3 products are not the only products I would recommend. They're just kind of the top 3 basics to cover your bases when you're exercising at home. So let's get started with number 1. For resistance exercise at home, what I would personally recommend is a resistance band. So I've got a few here. These are ones that I actually got in physical therapy. Now this is the TheraBand, is the brand that every PT clinic I've ever worked in, which is many across the United States, has used the TheraBand brand for giving to patients in the clinic. There are other brands out there. I've not used them. These are TheraBands. I think those are, pretty high quality when you talk about resistance bands. And in the description below, I'm going to put links to all the products I talk about today. And I actually looked through Amazon, and I'm going to put a link to TheraBand resistance bands that I found that had really good reviews and seemed like a quality product. And so when we're talking about these TheraBand resistance bands, the thing that I really like about these, and the reason why I like these for resistive exercise, is first of all, super lightweight, super small, compactable. So, they don't take up a lot of space in your house. They're not super heavy. They're not going to be, difficult to move. And you don't have to have a ton of them like you do with weights or dumbbells, where you might have to have a lot of different, weights. You can just have a few bands and do a lot of the same exercise, resistance exercise at home with just a few bands. So that's one thing that I like about these. Now they come in, the one that I'm linking, I think it comes in a pack of 3. So for example, with this, the green one is a little bit easier to use. It's a little bit lighter resistance. And then the blue one's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit heavier resistance. So when you're working different muscle groups, you may use a thicker one or a thinner one, depending on which exercise you're doing. So you can kind of play with that and see what works best for you. If you do have pain or injury, obviously I recommend talking to a physical therapist before, starting any exercises at home, so you don't risk making that worse. But I really like the resistance bands, really great for resistive exercises. You can use them for your upper body, your lower body. Really great, lots of different ways to, be creative and do a full routine at home. So if you have any questions about that, please put that in the comment section below. And if there's any other products that you're looking at and you have questions about whether this would be a good product to purchase, put that in the comment section. I will, try to respond to you in the comments or in a future video. So moving on to number 2, kind of the stretching mobilization product. When it comes to stretching, we recommend, doing stretching after your activity, particularly like cardiovascular or resistive exercise. When you're done with that exercise, that's when you need to do your stretching routine. And for most muscle groups, you can stretch without any really extra equipment. You can find a way to stretch which muscle groups you need to. But when it comes to the spine particularly, that's a little bit more difficult. There are ways to what we call mobilize. So we're not necessarily stretching, because when we talk about the spine, we're not stretching the muscles. We're actually trying to mobilize the joint. We're trying to help that joint move into a normal range of motion. And that's a little more difficult to do. There are ways to do it without products. But what I would recommend is a foam roller. And this is, you do not need a super expensive, super fancy product to be able to do mobilizations at home. And you don't need a super fancy, expensive foam roller to do mobilizations at home. I really like this because, sitting at the computer all day like many of us do, that kind of upper back, your thoracic spine, can get really tight and mine gets really achy and feels really stiff. And I love getting down. Now, this is if you can get up and down off the floor. You can do this standing up, but up and down off the floor is the best way to do it, I think. And I just love to lay down and just kind of mobilize that thoracic spine on the foam roller, help to get that extension back in the thoracic spine. And sometimes I can even get a manipulation, what we feel is like kind of that pop. And that really releases some endorphins and helps that spine feel better, helps get back into a natural posture so you can get up and, you know, keep doing your daily activities without pain. So I'm going to put a link to a really cheap foam roller on Amazon. Again, you don't need anything fancy, just a cheap foam roller that's rated well. Link in the description. And then for number 3, cardiovascular exercise. Again, there are ways to do all of this without much equipment, if any equipment at home. However, cardiovascular is a little bit more difficult, and that's where I do really like the Recumbent bike. Treadmills are great, but they're also safety hazard, and as we get older, or if our balance is off, or if we have pain or injury, they can be really dangerous and really difficult to use to get our heart rate up. Whereas the Recumbent bike with a seat with a backrest is very safe. You know, you sit down, you pedal your legs, and you can really get your heart rate up, get your leg muscles working, and get that cardio in for at least 30 minutes a day, as we've talked about in other videos. I'm going to put a few links down there in the description of a couple different Recumbent bikes because pricing wise this is not a super cheap item to purchase. So I'm going to put a really, like, the cheapest one I can find on Amazon that's rated decently. There's also one on there that I really like, if you can, that has, you can use your arms and your legs while you're seated. So it's like a seated elliptical, basically. I really like that because then you can get your upper body and lower body activated. And especially for those of you that might be, you know, undergoing surgery or knee replacement, things like that, being able to use your arms to kind of help your legs out is going to be beneficial for you. So I really like that one. Check that one out. And then I'll probably put, you know, one that's a little fancier, a little more expensive if you're wanting to splurge. And the nice thing is a lot of these products that I've looked at have free shipping. It's going to come right to your house. Check out the description if you're interested in any of those products. Please, again, comment below any questions you have. If you're looking at purchasing that and you're like, oh, I have this question or this question, put it in the comment section. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to, you can always send me an email, and that will be a lot more private, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But please like and subscribe so I can keep making great videos for you guys, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.